Joey, where have the Pies been tonight? In fact, we haven't seen them at all tonight.
No, well, we knew that coming into the draft, that once they got Nick Dacos, they were going to lose most of their picks, but they've been able to get back in, and obviously there's a player that they really like.
So the pick is in.
With pick 45, Collingwood have selected Arlo Draper from South Adelaide.
Ooh, there's the moment. I'm not surprised. First impressions are great on players, I reckon. I love those. I hold them in my head. Jason Horne-Francis, the best player for SA at under 16 level a couple of years ago. The second best was this kid in this game, playing at half-back over there in WA, then was injured for the other couple of under 16 matches. He stepped up to play senior footy at South Adelaide. One of three now from South Adelaide that played senior footy. Touch of class I like about him, and versatility. He's got, you know, a bit of Connor Rosie about him with that step. Even Jakey Stringer does some unbelievable things at times. You don't know how high that ceiling can be, whether it can be that mercurial half forward or whether he'll be a terrific running half back. Look, I had him in 25. I can't believe he's still here at this point, but that's the way the clubs analyse it.
Yeah, great get by Collingwood to get themselves back into the draft, but also we saw some phantom drafts had him in the first round, so Collingwood would be over the moon to get Arlo Draper at pick 45.
All right, Arlo, so we've had Matt Roberts, who's from South Adelaide. We've had Jason Horne-Francis last night, and now you've got a Collingwood. How do you feel about that?
Oh my God, I've almost got no words right now. That's incredible. Yeah, I can't believe it. I'm extremely grateful to Collingwood, and I can't wait to get started. Wow.
Congratulations, Arlo. You've probably waited maybe a bit longer than you thought. How have you been? Have you been like just sitting there so nervous? Have you been calm? How's the environment been up until this moment?
Oh, I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a bit nervous. Yeah, I didn't have too much expectation coming into it, but obviously sitting here waiting's been a little bit nerve-wracking. But yeah, it's insane that Collingwood have taken me, and I'm really excited to get started.
So we know that you stopped playing footy for a couple of years when you were young. What brought you back to the game?
Probably this man behind me, Angus, getting here. Angus Bradley was playing local footy at Wollonga. He wanted me to come back, so I decided, you know what, come back, kick the footy around with him, and yeah, that's kind of what happened. Yeah.
Tell us who you got with you tonight. How are you celebrating, and who's in the room at the moment? They must be so proud.
Yeah, so I got mum and dad, my two brothers, Manny and Sid, girlfriend Layla, Angus, friend. So yeah, it's a pretty small group, but celebrations will be on from now on.
And you happy to move to Victoria, mate?
Yeah, completely happy, stoked. Yeah, had my head wrapped around moving into state for a while, so yeah, really excited.
Arlo, awesome stuff. Look forward to having you in Victoria. Look forward to seeing what you can do for Collingwood in the future years as they rebuild under Craig McRae. Well done.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Awesome. I don't get sick of that at all. Nah. That's awesome. Every single one, they're stoked. Their family's so happy. They mob them up, hoping no one gets injured when they get stacked on. But it is great. Mick Ablett, you've been watching this young fella play as well. Give us an insight into what sort of footballer he's going to be at the top level.
Yeah, really good one, I think, Tom. Like Shifter, really surprised that he was still on the board at this period of the draft. It's funny when you see a player sometimes and you just see him slotting in a certain role. I really like him across half-back. He reminds me a lot of Jordan Ridley. You look at just his composure. He does not panic with the ball in hand, weights his kicks really nicely, and he's willing to absorb contact. He's one of those players that can take contact, stand up, free the arms and still release the footy. So it's a really important aspect of today's footy that you can actually still dispose of it post-contact and gain some yards for your team. I mean, he's going to give him versatility everywhere. The highlights we're seeing at the moment is him up forward, but he's got those long arms, he's got that nice lean build, and like I say, that beautiful fluent technique where he's able to weight kicks and hit targets anywhere around the ground. So really impressive, and I think the Magpies fans will be licking their lips.
Yeah, maybe that's why he slid, because he is versatile, but he's played a bit of everywhere, but hasn't really cemented himself in any one spot. So it'd be interesting to see where Collingwood think he's best suited, because, as Mick said there, he could be an excellent interceptor at half-back. We've seen that he's got the ability to play forward, and we know he can go and play in the stoppages, burst out. He's got good balance and a good decision-maker. So he's one that's got some real upside, and if Collingwood can sort of embed him in one position, there might be some huge growth there. And again, that might be one that we look back back in a few years' time and think that was an absolute steal at 45.
They've been rebuilding for 12 months, Collingwood. I think they had 9 or 10 debutants last year. They've got Nick Dacos in the door as well. So they're building something pretty special, I reckon. It might be a couple of years away, but if you're going to be a young player going to a club where you want to get games, get a good grounding, Collingwood's probably the club at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a wonderful club and a brand new coach and a whole new environment and vibe down there. So to get some youth into that place will continue to spark the place.
With pick 46, Essendon have selected Alastair Lord from Norwood.
Well, it'd be a name we're familiar with if you're an old Geelong supporter. He's a Brownlow medalist in 1982, Alastair Lord. No relation, this boy. So I was following the name, but then he'd been injured, then he bobbed up at a state game and was a star straight away. Playing as a small back that just read the play beautifully, runs and links up very, very well. Was super at this combine too with his agility. Was in the best couple of kids in the country. But that rebound ability and that dash, a bit of Adam Sard about him. So another one of those break-the-line defenders that can find the footy on the way out as well as intercepting. He's a kid from Norwood Footy Club. He's at private school at Ross Trevor and been a star when you read about him. But it was only a couple of games that I saw him in that at the end of the year playing for SA that really caught my eye.
And he'll join Ben Hobbs as well at Essendon Footy Club, who, again, have probably not rebuilt, but they've just topped up where they needed to top up over the last couple of years,
Yeah,
Joey.
and Essendon were linked to Josh Sin with that sort of speed and agility out of the back half. So maybe they weren't able to get Sin because they got Hobbs instead, and maybe Lord was the next one in line that can play that. You know, got that, as Shifter said really well, that Adam Sard agility, uses it well, run and carry, and can break the lines off half back.
Mick, tell us about Alastair Lord.
Yeah, really like this pick, boys. He's we saw the plays like on the screen. Brad Hill. You mentioned Adam Sard. How many times have we seen Brad Hill start the counter attack from the defensive side of centre? That's exactly what Alastair Lord does. He's the one that sets up the counter attack. He's generally the first player involved and a really important part of your forward thrust and your next attacking opportunity. So I really like his lateral movement, as Shifter touched on. To run sub 8 seconds for your agility is absolutely elite. So good pickup for the Bombers and a nice replacement. Not just the loss of Adam Sard. We saw Nick Hines step up into that role, but you got to remember they also lost Conor Mcdonald. So addressing some needs, and they've certainly got that with Alastair Lord.
So Geelong's up next, Joey and Shifter. What sort of names are on the board, Shifter, that you're surprised that have slipped to pick 47? Sorry to catch you on the hop, but...
Trying to find if there's any Geelong Falcons boys still on the board, because they've already taken a couple of Geelong Falcons tonight.
Like a kid called Cooper White from down there, a midfielder, lefty. Yeah. He's got a bit of flair and a bit of toughness about him if you're looking for the qualities, and probably saw the Falcons 3 or 4 times this year. He'd be one. We've mentioned, well, there's the tall boy from the Northern Knights too called Ned Long. He's a 196 midfielder. Think Paddy Cripps with him in terms of his stoppage work, and then when he rests up forward, he can mark the ball as well. But a small sample, got injured, you know, so we just seen 2 or 3 games from him. Okay.
So only 3 players so far have been drafted at 197 centimetres or above. Is that a surprise for you, Joey? Or is that sort of the trend over the last few years where ruckmen have been left till late or very early?
Yeah, I think it was... There weren't many rucks in this draft pool, were there? We know Conway was the standout, and then there weren't many. But there hasn't been the amount of talls, and I'm surprised too the amount of mature age. We've only had the 1 mature age selection so far. That was probably Lek Alir in the first round, but there hasn't been too many. But it looks like that there's going to be a bid on Windhager, the other St Kilda Academy player, and you think for giving up pick 57, it should be a no-brainer for St Kilda to match that bid.
This is what they're here for, aren't they, the Saints? In sort of the 3rd and 4th round, they're expecting bids on their NGAs, and they'll probably match all of them.
Well, Windhager, he played a private school game under COVID. No one could get in to look and there was no vision. But Matty Lloyd was the coach, and just having a chat to him in recent times, the boy had 34 and took 14 marks. You'd love to have been the fly on the wall for that game. That was the game we're looking to see. The breakout game for this boy was wonderful attributes. He's had an ACL in his development, elite basketballer, and we could see bits and pieces of it, and that maybe was the game that we've all missed.
With pick 47, St Kilda have matched the Geelong Cats bid for Marcus Windhager from the Sandringham Dragons.
Well, I'm not sure if it was the same school game, Shifter, but my note said the game for Haileybury against Geelong College, he kicked 5 and had 25 touches. So whether that was a same game or another game, but this is another player, another basketball background who's hardly played footy in 3 years. Another one who's had a lot of injuries, an ACL injury, a back injury, but he's one that's got some real upside, hasn't he, Shifter? A really good size, and another one of those powerful players that I think the Saints need.
So they've done very, very well there. They've invested in their next generation academy, and were able to match the bid here without it coming within 20 when they would have been able to do it.
So just a bit of news from earlier on. Adelaide and Melbourne were trying to orchestrate a trade, and the AFL knocked that trade back because it was with picks that they traded during the trade period just gone. So that was the reason the league said no to the Crows and Melbourne, and the draft continued as it did. So Geelong Footy Club now have got 4 minutes on the clock. The Cats are an interesting club, aren't they, Joey? They might have one more year left in them. We thought that last year. They made a prelim final. What are they looking to do with these remaining pick or two they've got in the draft?
Oh, they just need to continue to stock up. We know that they're chasing that flag. They've been chasing it for a number of years. They're a wonderful club, and now they are going to get a number of picks to build the next wave of talent when these Hall of Fame players that they've had at their club for so long move on. What type of player? We're not sure. We see there they took the ruck. They wanted the ruckman. He was always linked to the Cats, and then they've taken a couple of sort of tall midfielders in the next couple of picks. So it'll be interesting to see where they go.
There's a mature ager, Greg Clark, of course, there from Subi, who won the Simpson medal, best on the ground in the grand final. There's a boy who was in the academy probably, it'd be half a dozen years ago.
2015.
Amongst the best boys in Australia, and he's developed now, and he's about 100 games he's played.
With pick 48, the Geelong Cats have selected Flynn Kroger from the Eastern Rangers.
Well, I was lucky enough to see him in a game. I mentioned the game at Frankston in the tough conditions where Colin Mcdonald played very well. Well, this boy was just playing about his second or third game. He'd been injured. He was initially considered for the Vic Metro squad, but missed the first 6 or 8 games of the year. He's the right type. He's a powerful beast. He played down back. He runs straight and hard. And it's from a small sample, but I love what I saw, and I was concentrating because you're doing some commentary on them. Otherwise, you mightn't have noticed that this boy had slipped under the radar, but he had a terrific couple of weeks in a row, but then COVID strikes and doesn't finish the year off. So, a great selection just on the one sample that I've seen that game in tough conditions.
Interesting that Andrew Mackey's sitting there next to Stephen Wells, probably the future and probably the president at the moment, Stephen Wells, redefining his role in that list management department. Andrew Mackey played a pivotal role in the trade period, and just interesting how these list bosses orchestrate this transition.
With pick 49, Collingwood have selected Cooper Murley from Norwood.
Another South Australian product, Shifter.
And again, an All-Australian back at the 16s. It's the point of reference for many of these boys because of the fact that different things have occurred in their 17th and 18th year. We just didn't get to see him again through injury. He's Zach Butters like. He's a best and fairest winner in his bottom age year at his club there, of course, at Norwood. And that's an aside, was right up there in the finals, and so he showed all that class in his 16th, 17th year, and then it went pear-shaped this year for him. Come back fit at the end of the year. He tested very, very well, and he's been rewarded. He's got the speed, the smarts, only small at 178, but great natural playing talent.
Yeah, he's quite exciting. As you said, he only played, I think, the 3 games in 2021 because of injury, but in 2 of those he had 30 touches and kicked 2 goals. So he's got high upside. As you said, an All-Australian under 16, so we know he's had that talent. No one with injury. There's been so many of these kids that have had a lot of injury in their junior year, but came second in the Sandford under-18 comp as a bottom age of the year before, as Shifter said. So another one that's on the smallish side, but certainly got a lot of talent and potential.
Mick, you've had your eye on Cooper. What are your thoughts on this selection?
Yeah, he's only lightly framed, isn't he? He's only a small type of player and one that clearly they're going to have to invest in for a few years. But it's through opportunities that, and I know Shifter won't take any credit for this, but that Shifter and Grant Williams have created in terms of getting these games up, these state games in really tough times. And you speak to somebody like Brenton Phillips, the state talent manager in SA, and he just was very, very grateful for the opportunity that these kids were given. And, guys like Cooper, they just needed that chance, and he certainly got it. So look forward to watching what Collingwood can do with him and where he may unfold as a player as well.
Mick, are we likely to see any more WA boys selected tonight? Who's left that potentially could get a go that you think deserves an opportunity, or even the rookie draft tomorrow?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing, Judd McVee's a young fella from up Geraldton Way. Harry Taylor's had a lot to do with him, who was an All-Australian as well at under 16 level 2 years ago. I'd be amazed if that young fella doesn't get an opportunity, because he was another one along with Bazzo that I had touted as a top 10 pick 2 years ago. He reminded me a lot of Stephen Hill, an elite talent. Then, Tommy, you start to get to the boys. Like, at what stage does the mature age talent come in? You've got Greg Clark at Subiaco that captained Subi to a premiership this year, was best on ground in that game. An outstanding young man that missed his chance 5 or 6 years ago and has just reinvented himself as a really tough inside mid at 190 plus. Bailey Rogers, another one that had an outstanding year at waffle level over here. So I'll be interested to see when those mature age players start to kick in, but I'm sure there's still some WA talent on the board, and look forward to hearing another couple of names called out.
All over it as usual, Mick. Let's talk about some of that mature age talent. Charlie Dean was the best young player in the VFL this year, Shifter, and the last 14 years the best young player in the VFL has been drafted. You know, Bailey Fritsch, Luke Ryan, Jake Riccardi, Kane Lambert, to name a few. He's a good young player, can play back and forward. You know, what do you think his prospects are of getting picked up either tonight or maybe in the rookie draft tomorrow?
In one of those spots of certainty, I think. So it may be tomorrow. I hope it's not. He's like Luke Ryan, very much like... He's a spectacular mark, this boy. Reads the angles. He's developed into a terrific 20-year-old too, physically. Very impressed by the way he worked out at the end of the year. And that award, that... well, it's the Fothergill Round and Mitchell medal. Boys that have won both Liston trophies and Brownlow medals, it's named after, for the most promising player. He is a promising player, and we hope he gets the chance he deserves.
So St Kilda's got pick 51 from Melbourne. Melbourne's got that future fourth round. There's a lot of future fourth rounders flying around, Joey.
Yeah,
to be honest,
palm them off willy-nilly.
I mean, they just fly around like jelly beans, don't they?
Yeah.
And next year they'll probably pass them on. Again, it makes me think that Melbourne probably doesn't have anyone on their mind they want to pick up this year.
And again, St Kilda have been able to get their 2 academy picks, but they must have someone else on the board that they really like in the next pick after Essendon.
With pick 50, Essendon have selected Garrett Mcdonough from Richmond.
Do we know who that is, Shifter?
Well, he'd be a VFL player. There's no doubt about that. A Richmond player. They've played about 9 or 10 games in the VFL this year, and enough for them to have scouted him pretty well. And that's a beauty that those sorts of players get the opportunity. They're picking off one from a rival VFL team. There's no love lost between the Bombers and Richmond.
Yeah, well, hopefully now that we've had a mature age, we might get a couple more coming through now that we get to sort of post-pick 50. But... yeah, Essendon there taking one.
I always do like it when clubs select players who potentially aren't even on the front of the draft board, and they go around the back door. Adrian Dodoro is a crafty list manager, and he's found one there from Richmond in the VFL. What about father-son, Shifter? Have we got many father-sons left that are looking to be picked up?
Well, the name Woden, of course, is still there, but they'll get him with their last pick. He'll end up, if there's no bid, he ends up a Melbourne player. He'd be pretty happy with that outcome.
What sort of player is he, Shifter? Woden.
Well, again, he was the second quickest that was tested. It shocked everyone with the speed. You don't see it that much in the game. He's a neat mover, a great user of the footy. He has got the cleanest hands in the business, I noticed in reading about him. Worked with Dad over summer just to make sure he never fumbled the ball. That stood out. Played at East Fremantle in a leadership role as well. Played well in the state games. He certainly deserved the opportunity to get his place as a father-son.
Here are the Saints.
With pick 51, St Kilda have selected Oscar Adams from Glenelg Football Club.
A key defender.
And a boy from Mount Gambier. I like his prospects. Think Mark Blitzars from Geelong. He's a boy that can play centre-half back, but he's a big fella, a wiry fella at 197 that can help out in the ruck. It was the last game of those national games between SA and W. He's their best player. And I thought I could see it unfolding in front of my eyes, the way he started to intercept Mark. Not just a big kid that moved well, he actually started to pluck it. And I thought, I think he can make at least the rookie level. He has made it onto a primary list. That's great news for him. He's worked so hard from Mount Gambier right there on the border to get across and pursue his footy at Glenelg, and a great result for him.
Do you like this selection, Joey?
Well, it's a needs-based, isn't it? They needed a key defender, a developing key defender. They can hopefully turn into a star to work alongside Dougal Howard. He did start the year as a ruck, and then he became a key defender. So that good size, really athletic kid as well for his height. So hopefully they can try and develop him, and he can be that missing link that they have in that defence.
Mick, tell us about Oscar Adams.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, boys, that he falls to St Kilda. I had in my notes that he reminded me a lot of Joey's former teammate in Justin Kazitsky. His versatility and ability to go up and pinch it in the ruck, as it's been touched on, and then just to float across half back. He's one of those that makes the game look really easy, and it will be interesting to see where he plays, where the Saints think he fits. I mean, up on the board comes also that he plays like Ben McAvoy. So I think for St Kilda fans, you're starting to get a picture of what you're getting. It's just a matter of what role he slots into. So it's a nice problem for the Saints to have, and a nice replacement for their tall stocks.
How much of the draft selections at this time of the draft, Joey, are needs-based, and how much best available talent?
Well, I think it's horses for courses now for clubs, and I think that's what they try and decide. They would have their board, and there'd be some names that they'd have ranked higher that are available, but also at this time of the draft, you're looking for, some clubs are looking for a specific need.
With pick 52, Collingwood have selected Harvey Harrison from North Adelaide.
Gone for speed. The quickest kid in Australia this year. That's a good rap to have. The fastest over the 20 metres with a 2.85 seconds. So that's the pick-me moment that he's had. You'll go back and see him kick a couple of goals playing for SA against the Allies too. That was an early curtain raiser to the Sandford Grand Final there at the Adelaide Oval. Very clever goals they were from his 14, 15 possessions. So plays through the midfield. Been a prolific winner of the ball at under 18 level there at his club there at North Adelaide. But was that quickness that obviously has caught the eye of the Collingwood scouts.
Bit of pace for the Pies, Joey. You like that?
Oh, well, pace is always important at AFL level. You know, to run a 2.8, 20-metre sprint, pretty impressive, and can play on the inside. They can obviously get to the outside as well and use his legs. So you see what Collingwood have been able to do with this draft on top of the amount of picks that they were able to have last year. You know, they stocked up with 6 kids between picks 17 and 44 last year. They've been able to get a couple of picks between sort of 45 and 52. And out of that bunch, you know, they hope that 3 or 4 of them can become, real stars and those real sort of diamonds in the rough we've spoken about tonight.
I think the Pies would be pretty happy so far. Mick, tell us about this young fella, Harvey Harrison.
Yeah, well, Luke Power, the former NAB AFL Academy coach that's now development coach at Carlton, I remember him saying in training sessions to the boys, there's no time to walk in today's footy. Get on the move, stay on the move. You've got to be jogging and moving. This kid does that. He is constantly on the move. He's got an exceptional work ethic and really high work rate, which is what the modern game requires. So he's a player that can certainly stay up tempo, get from contest to contest and make sure he stays involved in the game.
What about Ned Long? He's best mates with Josh Ward. Is he a chance to go tonight or the rookie draft tomorrow? What do you make of his football, Shifter?
It was just the lack of games with him. He certainly has the potential to do it because I've seen him dominate. I thought he was best on the ground in a game early in the year, but then it was the injury that kept him out of all the main games later on. So he got AFL attributes at that size. We were talking about him before. There's a bit of Paddy Cripps about him with his size at the stoppage, or even a Josh Kennedy. He's got quick hands, doesn't need leg speed, and then he marks it up forward.
With pick 53, Hawthorn have selected Jai Sarong from the Gippsland Power.
There we go, the brother of Caleb.
Yeah, and I hope he's been watching, or he would have been watching Caleb, but he would have missed a fellow called Nat Fife in the middle either, because this is a different size brother. He's the 193. He'd be watching the way Fife goes about as a tall midfielder. I don't know his position for down the track, whether he's a forward or a back. He's certainly athletic enough to be a player with what we've seen of him. Also a talented cricketer, so decisions are made by many of these boys as to what sort of career they want to pursue, and he's chosen his footy. He was down at the Geelong Grammar as well, so we've seen him at different times down there at the Gippsland Power in those 3 positions.
Yeah, timing is everything there, Joey, isn't it?
Yeah.
To pick ahead of Fremantle.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's nothing like his older brother Caleb. He's much taller. He's that real sort of project player, 3rd tall forward. Got some real upside, so he's grown as well. He's grown a huge amount in the last sort of 12 months. months. So, yeah, it's a project player for the Hawks. As we spoke about the forward line, you know, we know about Gunston and Brewston. They've been able to try and see if they can jag a star in late in the pick in their forward line.
Mick, do you think Fremantle were hoping to get him at pick 54?
Yeah, well, it's interesting, Tommy, isn't it, that they had the next pick. So the Hawks may have taken that into consideration. No doubt he would have been on Fremantle's board at some stage. He is, again, similar to the Warner brothers, very, very different. This kid's a really nice hit-up. So I know what Shifter's talking about. It's interesting to know where he's going to fit. But he naturally hits up at the footy. He's very, very good overhead. And I think that could be his position to start off. Very similar. You touched on Bruce and Gunston and the like that do that are in the back end of their career. Well, this kid might end up learning underneath them and slotting in quite nicely.
I actually believe Fremantle would have taken him with pick 54 as well. It's a very interesting selection from Hawthorn, and I just wonder sometimes whether the clubs sit there and they have a player they want to get and they're just worried about a couple of clubs getting underneath the player and getting them that they want, and that's what happened here. Hawthorn said, no, we want Jace Burgoyne. Fremantle missed out and they'll have to get someone else now. So what do you think they're looking at, Shifter? Give us some names. What are some players on the board that the Dockers will be saying, yep, we can get him, we can make him an AFL player?
Well, why don't you go for the form of a boy from home that won the Jack Clark medal? That's the equivalent of the Morris or the Lark medal. It's the best and fairest player in the Colts in WA. His name's Josh Brown, so a ball winner. You know, he's a boy that's formed this year, averaged 32 disposals a game with his outside run, his inside stuff, his footy smarts, all of that. He's got the running capacity of a Bailey Smith. He mightn't be using the ball as well as a Bailey at the moment, but you like to reward boys with performance. Another one, Bryce Watson, a dashing defender from over there at Swan Districts, I think has got some AFL attributes. So they're boys that would have made the boards of most clubs and would be contenders. Woden, of course, what will happen there? The best of the WA. Jack Williams, I haven't seen bob up as well. Eric Benning's another.
With pick 54, Fremantle have selected Next Generation Academy nominee Eric Benning from the Waffle Colts CFC.
A very promising type, this boy. So he's there, Next Gen Academy, an Indigenous boy. Watched him play and thought, that's Paddy Ryder as a 17-year-old,
Wow.
you know. He's a big athletic boy that shows you glimpses of some special stuff, the marking, the mobility. At 196 centimetres, he might get to 198, and he's a boy from up in the East Kimberley Football League. That's wonderful to see that he's taken the punt and got down there to Claremont to pursue a career, and he's now got a chance at an AFL club. Good luck to Big Eric.
Big improver over the last 12 months, that real athletic, you know, developing ruck. He's raw, going to take time, but as we said, when you get these picks, you can speculate and try and see if they can develop someone. If he's half as good as Paddy Ryder, I'm sure Fremantle will be over the moon.
Mick, are you surprised? Are you concerned? Are you happy where Eric's gone? Do you think he deserved to get picked up in this position?
Yeah, I love this. I'm well done to the Fremantle Football Club in investing in their own. They didn't wait for a bid to come on him. They've actually picked him. So that's give them a lot of credit and give the young man a lot of credit too. The East Kimberley's a long way away. I know we saw on the board that consistency's a question mark. Talent's not. He's got plenty of that, and consistency will come through greater exposure to the program at Fremantle. And again, coming down from as far away as what he did into the Colts competition is a big step for these guys. So he'll do some exciting things.
With pick 55, Port Adelaide have selected Hugh Jackson from North Adelaide.
That's Port's first pick tonight. Shifter?
Pretty happy with that one. They would be too. Again, a boy that started early in the year. He was in all of the best teams of the week, all that sort of chat about a possible, top 30 spot in the draft this year. But again, it was a hip injury late in the year that we just didn't see him right at the back end. Elite kick of the ball, an elite kick again. It's the most important, I think, in the modern game, isn't it? If you turn it over, they're not going to give you much of a look at it unless you're the bull in the middle, feed it out with your hands. So he's an outside player. Some flashes of Josh Kelly when you're talking about the eliteness of the use of the ball. Could end up on the wing, but, it was very prominent as a half-back.
Another natural footballer, prolific ball winner, came second in the Sandful under-18 competition in the best and fairest, and has that ability to play inside and out. Averaged the 29 disposals and 12 contested, playing for South Australia in the under-18. So just another natural footballer that might be able to develop into the midfield in a few years' time.
And look at these pick 56s. It's a bit like your 37s, Joey. There's some diamonds in the rough.
There are. Pick 56 has a good history. Look at that. There's 4 players that have all played 400-plus games, and even in recent times, I mean, James Sicily, Dougal Howard, Jordan Dawson, all, very good players in the current competition. So, as we said, it doesn't matter how late these picks are. If the recruiters do their homework and find something, you can still get one.
With pick 56, Port Adelaide have selected Dante Visentini from the Sandringham Dragons.
2-metre Dante. We're going to go 2-metre Peter. That's what he plays like. He's a 201-centimetre boy that wrapped his picked up. He can play ruck and then take the big grab up forward, which he's done for Sandy. He's done that for Vic Metro. So a lovely size, but it'll take him 2 or 3 years, but he plays with great passion and leadership. He shows a love of the game when you watch him from over the fence, and just invested in a tall player that's going to be the one that'll give you a chip out in the ruck, but plays a tall forward as well.
So they traded out Peter Laddams. They clearly see Sam Hayes as playing some more senior footy next year. Not sure if he's a specialist ruckman, Dante, but this clearly helps with their tall stocks, Joey. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, you can speculate with these picks late. And I just shifter, has Jace Burgoyne been bid on yet? Port Adelaide? No, he hasn't.
Take him with their last
pick. They get him. So they've still got Jace Burgoyne to come through, which of course is the son of Peter Burgoyne. So they're going to get him as well, who is that sort of tall, quick wingman as well. So Port Adelaide will still have a strong hand in this draft, even though the picks have come late.
I've been interested in Hawthorn all night tonight. So the Hawks they've really cut the lunch of 2 clubs. They took Conor Mcdonald, the pick before Carlton. He was strongly linked to Carlton, and then Jai Sarong at 53. It's interesting to see what they're going to do here with pick 57. They've been rebuilding pretty aggressively, the Hawks, for the past few weeks, really, including the trade period. But now this is their draft. This is when they come into their own. What about Casey Voss, shifter? Where are we looking for him? Is he a chance to go, the son of Michael Voss?
Well, the best and fairest winner at senior level. He just, about the 20, 21 years of age, and just described by his coach as one of the smartest players he's ever seen play at state league level. So he's got the footy smarts of the Vosses. We think he probably gets a chance. It might be tomorrow, but certainly had a breakout year.
So Hawthorn are going to pass. They've passed all selections, so they're done for the night. They joined GWS and some other clubs having done their work. So that's their selection so far. What do you make of that draft haul, Joey? Starting with Joshua Ward with pick 7 last night.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice balance. So we know they wanted to get into the draft. They've got their star midfielder in Ward. They've got that other sort of mid-forward, Sam Butler, who's got that explosiveness to get in and out of traffic. Conor Mcdonald is your more old-fashioned big ball accumulator, can play in the midfield. That's sort of his predominant spot, as that inside mid who gets a lot of footy. And then they've speculated with an athletic sort of third tall forward at 193 centimetres who's got some real upside. So they've got some real balance out of this draft period, and I think Mark McKenzie and the Hawks will be really pleased with what they've done.
You agree with that, Shifter?
Spot on. Summed it up perfectly. They talked about midfield and wanting players to come through there. That's a great group of 3 there, and then Sarong's a great investment for the future.
All right, the Saints are up next. We're in the 4th round now of this 2021 draft on Fox Footy. Hope you're enjoying it. There's still some players to be picked up, some pretty mature age players as well, some talented young men who'll be hoping to get a lifeline either tonight or tomorrow at the rookie draft. Of course, you can follow that on foxfooty.com.au.
Interesting there, St Kilda's, the draft profile says that the general forward, they're ranked 18th in the competition, just for the natural forward. So we know they've got King and Membry and a couple of smalls, but they're going to pass for the night. They're done?
No, they're going to stay in, but they've passed there.
That pick.
Yep. So we've got the next pick. That's Simon Leflan out the back with Danny Sexton. He's been in the club for quite some time in a variety of roles.
So we'll expect some clubs to start passing up now.
Yep.
There is flexibility with the list at AFL level. You can have that flexibility between 36 and 38 selections. So you can, if there is someone still on the board that you want, you can make room for a spot on the list. There's a bit more flexibility than there used to be in the past. So I'm interested to see if clubs still find something they want, or they're all prepared to pass now and be happy with what they have.
I just wonder whether they passed on 56 to give themselves more time with 57. That'll give them another 5 minutes to select who they want, rather than take whoever they had on the board that's next. Oh no, that was wrong. They passed again.
The other opportunities, of course, but the supplemental period just been introduced now in the last couple of years. You can bring a couple in over summer and work out which one you want to keep. The mid-season draft is now back and running again. If you've got a spot, you can use it halfway through the year. So that's the flexibility they're giving.
Clubs
them
want to
now.
give, they like giving themselves that bit of flexibility because,
leave some room.
Yeah.
This is the Fox Lab rank. Ned Long still there. The man we spoke about before, Charlie Dean. And we know Casey Voss down there as well. So they're all in the mix. It's just up to the clubs who they want to take next.
Of course, there's still a chance for these players. As we said, the rookie draft coming up. Some of them can train on, and if there's that opportunity, if there is some injury through the pre-season, to get on a list in the new year. And of course, mid-season draft for these players. Hopefully, season 2022, we can get full years of football away, whether it's in Victoria and in their states. Hopefully we're through all the COVID and they can put some football together and show some body of work of what these players have got that maybe clubs haven't been able to see enough of at the moment to draft. And there's always opportunity mid-season. And then, of course, you can still come back and go again next year's draft.
So you might ask why the Saints have passed on 2 picks but are staying in the draft. I think it's probably in case anyone bids on Jack Perris, who's the son of Nova Perris, the former Australian Olympian, hockey player and runner, as West Coast submit their pick.
With pick 57, the West Coast Eagles have selected Jack Williams from East Promantle.
That's the 13th player taken from WA this draft, Shifter. Tell us about him.
Well, he's a big-bodied forward. He's got a real physical presence. He presents all of the time. I'm amazed he's there at 57. I think clearly in 40, just the way he takes the most marks of any young player over in WA with that presence across half forward. He gets the ball a bit too. He averages 15 disposals and 6 marks a game, kicked 40 goals for the year, and was prominent in those representative games. Remember that WA were unbeaten at under-19 level this year, and he was a key player for them, Jack Williams. So they'll be delighted in a long-term key forward.
Yeah, of course, Josh Kennedy, we know, the superstar, coming towards the end. They've still got Oscar Allen and Jack Darling, who is getting on, but is starting to replenish and looking ahead to 3-4 years down the track. And Jack Williams is that key forward who can pinch hit in the ruck. And another one who stayed local, another West Australian pick. So the Eagles have really kept it homegrown this year.
And the Swans have just passed on that selection, and now they're at pick 58. Mick, what are your thoughts on Jack Williams? Have you seen much of him play, and how much of an impact can he have? Maybe not next year, but certainly down the track.
Yeah, well, it's a hot recruiting area, the East Fremantle zone, and West Coast have done it again. They've made a habit of this, investing in local talent, particularly later in the draft with some great success. So you look at a player like Jack Williams, he can kick multiple goals. He's kicked 2 or more in 12 out of 15 games. So when he does hit the scoreboard, he does kick multiple goals, which is important. Joey mentioned the need to address some of those players that are starting to transition out. They've done that very, very well for a long period of time, the Eagles recruiting group. And again, Jack's going to be a work in progress and somebody that may take a little bit of time, but that's what the Eagles have. They have time. They've got forwards that can step up at the moment, even in the absence of Josh Kennedy. So nice pick from the Eagles and a player that I look forward to watching develop.
Good stuff, Mick, as always. So let's have a look at Freo's picks and see what sort of draft they've had so far, because they are out of this draft now, so there'll be no more selections tonight, Joey.
They'll be absolutely stoked. 4 Western Australians, the 3 there, Miss Erasmus and Johnson, were all ranked in most people's sort of top 10 or 12. So to walk away with 3, top 10, 12 talented players, all Western Australian, to go with the group that they've already sort of got in recent years and build on that midfield. They tick some areas off with that midfield depth, some versatility there with Johnson inside, outside, Erasmus with that ability to play inside and forward. They get their key forward that they can develop, and then that young, the young ruck that they can develop over time. So Fremantle will be absolutely wrapped with what they've done this year.
Do you like what they've done tonight and also last night, Shifter?
I do. They've capitalised on the great form of their kids at under-19 level. They look to be the best young group around, and to keep 4 of them, that's a pretty good hand.
Staying in WA, what about Josh Cripps, Patrick's taller brother? I'll just hold that thought because we've got a pick coming in for the Sydney Swans. Let's go to Brad Scott.
With pick 58, the Sydney Swans have selected Lachlan Rankin from the Oakley Chargers.
He was quite high up on the Fox Lab rankings, Shifter.
Yeah, I like him as a selection too. He's a boy from Beverly Hills. What a football club it's been in producing the Christian Petrarcas, even back to Paul Roos and Mark Browning from many years ago. And a boy that can play half back or half forward. His point of difference is his use of the ball. He's a great kick, spots up the smaller, the shorter targets or the longer ones, and he's got goal sense when he gets forward. I think he's better back behind the ball, which he played a couple of years ago, but that versatility gives him a whole range of spots that he can play into the future.
Now, that kicking's been a feature of the Swans recruiting in recent years. You think of Braden Campbell and Errol Gordon, two elite kicks of the competition already, and even Dylan Stevens, another high draft pick in recent years. So they've got the knack of getting those highly talented, skillful players.
Lachlan Rankin, Mick, tell us about him.
Yeah, I had him down, Tommy, as someone that reminded me of a more athletic Jack Higgins. That's no disrespect to Jack, so let's not light up social media, Jack, with all your followers, but that's actually a really big compliment because he is really smart. He's footy IQ, he's nous around goals, and that ability to hit the scoreboard consistently. He averaged a goal a game, which for a small forward's really, really important, but he is highly intelligent inside forward 50.
This is the Giants' picks. Finn Callahan, we saw that at pick 3. I think they had him lined up for quite some time. Geez, didn't the second pick, didn't Leck just take us all a bit by surprise there, Joey and Shifter? We didn't expect that, but they've taken him and they're very happy with it. Oh,
he's got some upside, hasn't he? The potential on him, he's through the roof. He's some of his highlights of his intercept marking are as good as you'll see. So, again, the Giants will be happy with what they've done and being able to keep the homegrown talent in Faye as well.
They really believed that they could take Leclerc and no one else would go near him, and he wasn't really being spoken about as a first-round draft pick. Shifter. What can you tell us about him?
Well, just that leap was sensational, wasn't he? That was the stamp that he put on himself at that combine with a 107-centimetre running vertical jump that we all talked about, went back to his vision, picked up on his story as to the gaps in his underage years where he had some injuries, and then unfolded the back half of the year at senior level. The advantage of playing that back half that many of the kids around Victoria particularly didn't play that last 7 or 8 games of the year. That's when he was starring. He interviewed so well. The club said that, gee, he's an impressive young man. Someone's going to take him. They thought it might be from 30 onwards, but once the Giants had set their minds on him, it didn't matter what pick he was going to be. Yeah. They wanted the centre-half back that's going to be there for the long term, and so they upgraded. Good on them. Very few things stay quiet in football, but that did stay quiet. We had no idea. That was a one from left field. So the Giants are out at the moment for the night. North Melbourne, we're waiting on them. They've got 3 minutes remaining. They've had a busy night, North Melbourne. In fact, they've had a busy draft, as you'd expect with any club that's rebuilding, Joey. How do you rate their list strategy and the way they've gone about it? Really for the last 2 years, when you include Jaden Stevenson in that discussion as well. Yeah, that's right. We know they invested heavily in the midfield in recent years. They got Tom Powell and Will Phillips, and they brought in Stevenson, and they've really stocked up in that area now. And now they can start to build outside. I think they've done really well with their sort of key position forward rucks, and they're continuing to build their list.
With pick 59, North Melbourne have selected father-son nominee Jackson Archer from the Northern Knights.
That's a great moment. That is romanticism in football. We love to see that, Shifter. Fantastic. And, of course, Glenn, maybe he's the shin boner of the century, 300-odd games. What a courageous player. Well, this boy's a chip off the old block. Yeah. I tell you what, he's not as big. What a surprise to see tough there. He is not, but he's tough. Yeah. Straight and hard at the ball. Seen him a number of occasions for the Northern Knights, and as well as running hard and straight, he makes great decisions too. He's only lightly built at the moment. He'll take a while. I think Glenn was a late developer. Even might have played some under-19 footy in his way through, but become a star of the game. Love this boy's composure with the footy too. He hit his targets and was still developing as a young player, and a great moment for the North Melbourne Footy Club. I'm sure North Melbourne will get him a profile shot as well, maybe even as soon as tomorrow. The father-son rule's terrific, isn't it? We love it in the game. Do you think the AFL has it right at the moment with the way it's set up? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you still get the opportunity to be able to get those father-sons into the football club, which we want to keep in our game, but it's probably a bit more fair than it used to be back when I started, when Gary Ablett Jr. went for pick 40 and Joe Watson went for pick 40 and all those sorts of things. So I think they've made it a bit more fair now, but it still does give the clubs a chance to get the father-sons in. There's another one in now for Port Adelaide.
With pick 60, Port Adelaide have selected father-son nominee Jace Burgoyne from the Eagles.
Premiership player Peter Burgoyne, and now his son's at the club.
Repeat story, hey. A champion of the game was Peter, Indigenous team of the century. We forget that now with Sean, his brother, being such a wonderful player in more recent years. But Pete was a star, 240 games there at Port. This boy's a player. I'm shocked he's not bid upon. Just the naked eye watching him play. He's got exciting pace, steps around him, kicks it well, comes from half-back again, but also can get up through the midfield. Just lightly built. He played some senior footy too this year over there in the Sandful, as well as those rep games. Was in the Australian under-18s early in the year too. That's how good his form was. And you get him a choice 60. He seems to be very much a bargain for me.
Speaking about romanticism, unfortunately, his brother Trent just got delisted from Port Adelaide, so they don't get to cross paths, but I'm sure Jace will forge his own career. And, of course, you know, his uncle Sean is now doing some work at the footy club as well, so they're keeping it in the family there at Port Adelaide.
I'm sure Port were very happy to get Sean Burgoyne. They'll be very happy to get Jace Burgoyne. Mick, take us inside his football. What does he do? What are his strengths?
Well, he's frighteningly like his old man. It's uncanny. I kept watching the vision over and over and over, and like Shifter said, it's hard to see why he wasn't bid on, because it's just his composure. Like, Peter had this knack of putting the game into slow motion, and so's Jace. It's just that ability to take your time. Almost looks like he's got an extra 2 or 3 seconds than what other players have around the ground to make his decisions.
With pick 61, the Western Bulldogs have selected Luke Cleary from the Sandringham Dragons.
The Sandringham Dragons, they are a breeding ground. That's 34 players in the last couple of drafts that have gone there, and they've had 8 players from this draft taken. They're a very good football club, aren't they?
Well, Luke, congratulations. Don't take no for the answer. Overlooked last year, overlooked in the mid-season draft. He played in the Young Guns game. He presented for Vic Metro then. And it's going to be that story for many kids in draft stories, that you'll get overlooked and knocked back, but he kept improving and working on his game. Reads the angles fantastically well. 190-centimetre half-back. Great decision-maker. End up second in their best and fairest at Sandy this year behind Finn Callaghan. So he can play, this boy. It's a late pick, but he's onto the primary list. I thought maybe it might have had to wait again for a rookie tomorrow, but that's great news for this young fella from Beaumaris, and as I say, played that representative footy and kept going at it, at his dream of getting into the AFL. He's finally rewarded.
8's a huge haul for Sandy Dragons. That's double more than anyone else. You know, I said 34. That's over the last 5 years, and that's more than anyone else as well. So they're a breeding ground at the moment.
Well, they always have been. You know, going back to when I got drafted with, you know, Ball and Judd were all there, and then so they've always been a wonderful football club, the Sandringham Dragons.
It is the hottest spot for talent in Australia. Yeah. We analyse that every year. There's 90-odd regions in Australia we look at, and it's about 6 a year on average. That includes primary list and those that are rookie listed that go up and play one game. That's the criteria, and it is the hottest spot.
Why do you think that is?
Well, the football mindedness of the area. They love the game. The people in that area are steeped in footy. All these footy clubs, like the Beaumarises of the world, you know, they're the breeding grounds from all the Auskick centres underneath it. The finishing school, of course, is the Sandringham Dragons, but it's been a rich footy area for a long, long time.
All right, let's see what Jason Cripps has got up his sleeve. There's been a trade. Now it's up to West Coast. We'll wait and see what that trade is. The Eagles and Port. And that's what it is. So the Eagles get pick 62, and Port, there we go, Joey, they get that future 4th rounder.
Yeah, not sure what the clubs have got there. I'm sure there's a reason for that. Well, West Coast Eagles will take pick 62, and they might use it on someone now, potentially.
That future 4th rounder could easily be pick 62.
Yep.
So we don't actually know how it benefits either club at the moment, but one thing we do know is it must be mutually beneficial, otherwise they wouldn't do it. So now West Coast are on the clock. 2 minutes 30 remaining.
There's still someone in the draft pool that they fancy. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Someone there that they
maybe
thought...
a Greg Clark, potentially.
It could be. Someone like that they thought, gee, we've got to go now. Well, don't worry about next year. We've got someone left in here that we want to grab.
With pick 62, the West Coast Eagles have selected Greg Clark from Subiaco.
Bang. I'm sitting with 2 absolute geniuses here.
That's spot on. Fantastic. And great to see. I knew this boy 6 years ago when he was in the National Academy with all the best kids in Australia. Was disappointed then that he was overlooked. He was an outside wingman then. He's now an inside mid, a captain, a leader, best on the ground in the Waffle Grand Final. He gets his chance. There was other clubs interested as well. Waited a long time.
Great story. 24-year-old, been dominating the waffle. He's massive. I watched vision of him. He's a massive unit in the midfield, ready to play straight away. He's a good size. He runs hard. He competes. He's a leader. Oh, I think they've got themselves a beauty. And it's a great sign of perseverance that all the kids that have missed out on the draft tonight, he's gone back. He's taken a lot longer than most others. I mean, 4, 5, 6 years in the system. Now gets a crack at it. We wish him luck and hopefully he can impact at AFL level for the Eagles. But it's a great story and as we said, a great sign of perseverance and resilience.
Yeah, Mick, this must be one of the stories of the draft. Tell us about him, 24 years old.
Yeah, I'm absolutely rapt for this young fella. Like Kev said, he is an example of someone that completely transformed their game. Very outside as an underage player. I watched him play in the grand final this year. He got absolutely crunched in the first quarter and a lot of players wouldn't have got up. Got up, went off the ground, had the shoulder taped up. From what I'm led to believe, played out the rest of the game on painkillers and came out best on ground. So he's a player that's come a long, long way. He's a beast, Joey, you're right. But full credit to Bo Wardman, the lead coach there, and to Christian Dicton, the footy manager. They've instilled a lot of confidence in this young man. They've backed him in. I mentioned that he was captain. No offence to Lee Kitchen, who is the captain of Subi, an ex-Frankston boy, but Greg did stand in when Lee was injured and did an outstanding job. His leadership's always been there, but for all the young fellas around the country, go and have a look at Greg Clark. And if you see him play some league footy, which hopefully he does in 2022, he's just an outstanding example of perseverance, somebody that never gave up and did take the advice on board and went and changed his game. So congratulations to Greg and the Subiaco Footy Club. That's 3 players in this draft out of WA. Great result for them.
Fantastic. What a great story. That's 14 players from WA as well taken in this draft so far. Let's go to Marvel Stadium where Sarah Ollie is standing by with Kinnear Beatson from the Sydney Swans Footy Club.
Kinnear, 4 selections this draft. Let's start with pick 18, your first selection, Angus Sheldrick. Now, this isn't a player that we projected to go in the first round. Tell us a bit about him.
Yeah, look, it's fair to say Angus is a bit of a bolter, given that he didn't play a lot last year because of a fractured collarbone, and then he missed pre-season because he had to have the plate taken off the collarbone, and then he developed tonsillitis, so his season got off to a bit of a slow start, but midway through to the finals and through the national championships, his form we just thought was outstanding. Look, he's a rotund little player, but he's as hard as a cat's head, if you like. Really good contested ball winner, but also gets out into some space and gets some loose ball, which is important. Penetrating left foot kick. But to us, he just seems like one of these kids. If you challenge him about something, he'll prove to you that you were wrong. And that's a great attribute to have in a young player. So, yeah, in our minds, not a bolter, but we can understand a lot of the pundits thinking that way.
Hard as a cat's head. That's also what Kevin Sheehan said to describe him yesterday. I love the story about Corey Warner. He's going to be playing alongside his brother, Chad. You selected him with pick 40, but he's nothing like his brother, is that right?
No, he's more of a hybrid mid, Corey. He plays both inside, midfield and outside, but he had a really interesting year, starting off in the Colts for East Fremantle, then working his way into the senior side, then having to go back to college footy, and then coming back and playing a bit more senior footy before finishing off the year playing with WA in the national championships. A really strong runner, gut runner, needs a little bit of work to do on his kicking. He's got to polish that up, but Corey's aware of that. And the link with Chad, well, that's a good story and it helps.
Did Chad get in your ear at all?
Pardon?
Did Chad get in your ear at all?
No, Chad didn't, not at all. But I just got a lovely text from his mother before Anita saying, "I love you," which I thought was lovely.
I'm sure you'll be getting those messages from Swans fans all over the country, Kinnear. They'll be saying, "We love you." But just before I let you go, any news as well on Louis Taylor?
Yeah, look, Louis will be, our aim is to take him back tomorrow in the rookie draft. So he's contracted for another year and we'll do that. We're really pleased that Louis was in a position to allow us to do that, to delist him with the promise of taking him back. And I think you'll find there'll be a lot of clubs doing that tomorrow, taking players back, like Sammy Mays, I think Cameron Ellis-Yolman, some of them, they come back. So, yes, we'll be taking Louis tomorrow.
Beautiful. Kinnear, thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Joey, I feel like Sarah Ollie could talk to Kinnear Beatson all night. Yeah. He's a big Swan supporter and great that Kinnear could give us that time. I want to ask you, Shifter, as we wait at the moment on the next pick, on Cooper Hamilton. He posted the second fastest time ever in the 2K time trial. Not selected yet. Are we likely to see him either tonight or tomorrow?
I can't answer that exactly, but geez, I hope so, because I think he's got some special attributes, not just that. I like his marking, his versatility. Just underdone this year. He's played the 4 games in NAB League and some school footy at Caulfield Grammar. Didn't play it all last year, so you mightn't have enough data to go on to be able to pick him, would be the case. So you encourage he's a twin, actually. His twin brother Hugh's a good player as well. He's a different player, he's an inside midfielder. So the pair of boys, if it doesn't happen tonight, it may happen tomorrow. If not, you dig in like Luke Cleary and all the other boys we've talked about and just prove. You just test your resilience. It does. Your love of the game. But for 25% of players over time, it's not happened in the first time they're up for the draft. You know, they'll improve and work out where they really want to play it and get their chances. It's riddled through 37 years of draft history, those sorts of numbers. So hang in, there's the message. It's full of disappointment. All professional sport is, where it's not picked at a cricket team or footy team. It's part of life, and it really does. It's a very disappointing moment it is, but then that goes away pretty quickly. Your mates get around you. So I think he's got some attributes, and I'll back him into the next 24 hours or in the next year or so to come through and play.
I look forward to reading more and seeing more about Greg Clark as well, seeing where he was as an 18-year-old, seeing how many times he was knocked back. And then the fact he's on West Coast primary list now is a great story, isn't it? 24 years old. I know we've spoken about it, but this should prove to all young men around Australia that they can make it if they continue to work hard enough. Absolutely.
It is possible, and as I said, there's only been the 60 selections, or not even 60 selections tonight, so it's getting harder, and there has been some issues with list sizes and salary caps, and we know it's been a really hectic and difficult period for the AFL the last couple of years, as it's been around the world with everything. So there still will be opportunities in the future, and there's still some talent certainly out there.
Adrian Nadoro there and Josh Marnie just waiting on who Essendon's next pick is going to be. I think they're one of that. Yeah, let's look at the Essendon there, that Garrett Mcdonough there that we spoke about earlier. We didn't know a lot about. He was a Northern Knights boy that played with Jaden Short and Jason Castagna a number of years ago, and then went to play VFL. So another one of these great stories, Tom. Yep. Played for the Northern Blues, then went to Coburg, then went back and played for West Preston in the Diamond Valley, then went and had another crack at VFL. And now he's been drafted as a 25-year-old on Essendon's primary list. So we talk about Greg Clark, but Garrett Mcdonough, there's another story of resilience and perseverance and never giving up on his dream. And now at 25 years of age, he'll be on Essendon's list looking to push in that side for a game. So Essendon are out of the draft now. They've made the call, so they're done for tonight. They'll reconvene tomorrow ahead of the rookie draft. Of course, you can follow that on foxfooty.com.au. We're waiting on the Sydney Swans now. We know St Kilda is staying in, we think, just in case anyone bids for Jack Perris, who, of course, is the very speedy son of Nova Perris, the former Australian Olympian, hockey and athletics in 1996 and 2000. Now it's up to Port Adelaide with Sydney Swans, and they're out. And we'll wait and see what Port Adelaide can do here. Let's have a look at the Sydney Swans, though, Joey and Shifter, and how they've gone so far in this draft. We just heard from Kinnear Beatson. What do they need, and are they able to cover any of those needs in the players they've selected? Yeah, well, he said then he didn't think Angus Sheldrick was as much of a bolter as what many pundits thought. They really rated him. As I said, that hard, tough player, got plenty of ability to win the football on the inside, Shifter, and he's going to be the replacement for Joey Kennedy, who's been so good, and as Luke Parker gets a little bit on in age, he's one that can go into that midfield and be that big bull in there. We know Matthew Roberts is just that natural footballer who's got some class with his left leg and can play in a number of positions. And of course, they spoke then Corey Warner, brother of Chad, who we thought was maybe more of an outside player, but Kinnear then said he's got that ability to play inside and outside, and that sort of hybrid midfielder that we know is a bit of the prototype of modern football. So they're all standing up in the port room. Something's going on. Jason Cripps is working his magic. Someone's on the phone. Philosophically, Joey, how much of a role should the coach have to play in these discussions around the draft? We see John Longmire's in the room. I saw Brett Ratton in the room as well, but Damien Hardwick, for example, is overseas. So how much of a role does the senior coach play? Look, they're certainly involved in conversations, but at the end of the day, they delegate to the experts in these cases. That's the list managers and the recruiters that have done all the work and hundreds of hours of watching these players. At the end of the day, they've got to back those people to make the calls, but they're certainly involved in the conversations of maybe the type of players they're looking for, what they need, and those sorts of things. And I'd think too, ask the hard questions, you know, as challenge. Challenge your recruiters, your list managers about the type of player you're getting, so he knows what he has to handle when they come in.
And that's why they have long conversations about the way they invest every single pick. They're investing $200,000 to $300,000 in every pick. Through what you spend, what you're going to pay, so it's a lot of money that you're putting into it, and you normally got them for a couple of years as well, so you need to know them pretty thoroughly.
So Port Adelaide's draft hand, they got Joshua Sint, who they wanted in that draft. They traded up for him. Is that going to be that run, dashing, sort of half-back winger, beautiful user? Think of Josh Kelly at the Giants, and then some other speed with Jace Burgoyne, who's going to play on the wing, and then 2-metre Dante. Is that
what you called him, Shifter?
I did.
Named him. I don't know if it'll stick, but 2-metre Dante. And, of course, Hugh Jackson as well, who's another midfielder that probably outside but can play inside, outside, and a prolific ball winner.
It's good to see Gold Coast for the first time tonight. We haven't really mentioned them. Maybe this is the selection, dare I say, Joey, they would have used on Hugh Greenwood. We're not sure what's going to happen.
Maybe they get a Hugh Greenwood replacement, Tom.
Maybe they do. Maybe they do. The pick is in. I'll get your thoughts after this.
With pick 63, the Gold Coast Suns have selected Charlie Constable from the Geelong Cats.
Placement, Shifter, isn't it, for Hugh Greenwood?
Like for like. Yeah, maybe the opportunity will come for him because, look, he's a good player, great player at the VFL level, lacked opportunity as the tall midfielder like a Greenwood, isn't he? Not over quick, but he gets the hands on the ball at stoppage, prolific ball winner, keen to get another shot at it, and he's going to get that crack.
Yeah, another one who's dominated at VFL level. I mean, look at those numbers there. Clearances, contested ball, always wins plenty of footy. Just hasn't been able to get that opportunity because of how strong the Geelong midfield has been over the last 4 or 5 years. But another one, resilience, perseverance, opportunity. I mean, he wouldn't have known what was happening. Of course, the Hugh Greenwood situation happens, and now he gets a chance to reinvent his career at the Gold Coast Suns.
It was a bit of a PR catastrophe for Gold Coast, but I don't think they've lost a lot here. Hugh Greenwood can play. Charlie Constable's younger. He's probably not being paid as much as what Hugh Greenwood was. I don't think they lose too much by getting Charlie to replace Hugh.
That's a bit of a free hit for them. He might turn out to be the star that he always promised, and they get a good look at it at the Gold Coast. And
they get to save some money as well. Hopefully keeps Ben King, Jack Lukosius, Isaac Rankin next year. They've already re-signed Tuke Miller. That's a great signature on a long-term deal. And the Richmond Footy Club are waiting for them now. Gold Coast are out for the night, so just a small role for them. This is Richmond's evening so far. This is their evening tonight. Joey and Shifter. They've selected 5 players. It started with Josh Gibcus last night. It's continued on. Yeah, well, there's a little birdie that's saying that maybe the Richmond side might be flirting with Gibcus as a forward, because we know they didn't take a tall forward in this draft. We know that Tom Lynch and Jack Riewoldt are sort of closer to the end than the start of their careers, and they've lost Coleman Jones and Marby Old-Chol. So maybe just keep an eye out over the pre-season whether Gibcus maybe trains with the forwards. We know he can be an elite intercept defender if need be, and can always go back in time. You know, they've got Noah Bolter, and while they've still got Grimes and a few others, maybe they can experiment with him as a forward. Tom Brown's that intercepting defender. And then, as Shifter and I spoke about earlier, the 3 midfielders that have all got a bit of different variety about them, but they needed to replenish their midfield because of those ageing stars in Koch and Edwards and Lambert and Prestia, etc. Can Gibcus play forward, Shifter?
Haven't seen him there. A wonderful athlete, first-choice athlete, and improving all the time. Very coachable kid. You never know. Look, we've seen so much of that over time where we think they're such and such, and it changes in 2 years' time as they get into the professional sort of era with the clubs.
Just as we wait on Geelong, you see Andrew Mackey and Stephen Wells standing up there. Stephen Wells is sitting down. I've got some numbers here. From 2016 to 2018, there was 75 or more players drafted in every national draft. 2019 was 65, 2020 was 59, and this year's just 63 so far. Why do you think the number's going down, Shifter, in the national draft?
Well, I think the list went back by a couple of spots there last year, and they've kept blokes, haven't they? The state leagues haven't played, the reserves haven't played to the normal number of games to assess a player, so it's unfair to let them go. So they've kept them on a wee bit more, so we've had slightly less turnover, I'd reckon, of players. All
right, let's head over to Marvel Stadium now, where Sarah Ollie, doing a great job for us all night, is with Hawthorn's Mark McKenzie. Take it away, Sarah.
Mark, 4 selections this draft, but I want to start with Sam Mitchell, the coach. It's his first draft in charge. How did he go in there? Who was in charge, you or him?
No, he was in charge of the lot. He definitely brought the upbeat part of the Knights on both. You know, he's really been into it the last couple of months, really, in regards to viewing the players. But he was upbeat. He's come into interviews the last couple of months. But he brought the lollies along, but he brought the energy into the group.
Well, the lollies is a good way to start. But Josh Ward at 7, Conor Mcdonald at 26. They're both hard-nosed midfielders, very much in the same vein as the coach. Tell us a bit more about these boys.
Yeah, we're definitely looking into the midfield area, and Sam Butler can go through that area as well. But I think across the board with the 4 players that we've brought in, it was the high-quality character and the standards that they'll set that we feel is important for our club at this point.
And Jace Burgoyne at pick 53, obviously the brother of Caleb. Fremantle had the pick 54. Is that something you took into consideration?
No, not really. He was just next on our list. Jai, we think he's got plenty of upside and different positionally compared to the other guys as well. So we interviewed him a couple of times and definite interest there, but he was next on our list, so we went with Jai.
Well played. Thanks for your time.
No worries. Cheers.
Thanks to Sarah with Mark McKenzie down at Marvel Stadium. Good first question from Sarah. Who was in charge? Sam Mitchell, the list manager. I like that.
Mark didn't want to say it, but he was. It's, they've done well again.
All right, a pick is in.
With pick 64, the Geelong Cats have selected Cooper White from the Geelong Falcons.
Another inside midfielder.
Another Geelong Falcon.
Yeah. Well, I like he's both tough and he's got some flair. It's a good combination, isn't it, hey? That you really attack the ball aggressively. He did that for the Falcons this year. I watched him on a number of occasions live. Didn't make Vic Country and all of the rep games and rep squads, but loved the way he played. Been a state-level basketballer. Kids make decisions at around 16, 17 years of age on which sport they'll pursue. He's jumped back to footy. He's just at the 181 centimetre mark, but was right in contention through those performances under Paul Corrigan there for the Geelong Falcons this year.
Right, so the Dogs are out of the draft. Joey, another inside bid for Geelong. You like that? I mean, Charlie Constable goes. Cooper White comes in.
Yep, just need to keep stocking up, taking some more talent and some local homegrown talent.
So this is the Dogs, Sam Darcy. Arthur Jones, as we heard before, the first Arthur to get drafted since 1984. And Luke Cleary, how do you rate that draft hand, Joey?
Well, I don't know much about the other 2 boys. That's more shifter, but obviously Sam Darcy, I mean, you know, how lucky they've been the last couple of years with the father-son and the academy. He's going to be an absolute beauty. And they got what they wanted.
The talls and the smalls, the 178 in Jones and the 205 in Darcy.
And still
they
growing
play the
apparently
game,
as well.
And Cleary at 190, so they've got one of each.
And they don't need much, to be honest, with their list at the moment. They're in a pretty good spot, the Western Bulldogs list, so anything they get is a bonus.
Shifter, we saw Sam Darcy play in defence. I will hold that thought.
With pick 65, Melbourne have selected father-son nominee Taj Wowoden from East Fremantle.
You're happy, Tommy? Shane Wowoden, you said was your favourite player?
He was my favourite player when I was 9 years old, and to see his son at the club is fantastic. But can he play, Shifter? That's the important thing.
Well, he can find the footy and use the footy. That's a great start. He had some ripper games for East Fremantle at Colts level, then for WA in those rep footy games, and then was a surprise packet at the Testy. Was the second quickest overall in the 20 metres. So he's got that outside run that you want. And he worked hard with Dad too over summer just to be clean with his hands, put in those extra times where just on the little things to get your fundamentals right. And he was in tears when Melbourne told him that they would take him in the draft. Should no one bid early enough, they'll tape him at the back end, and that's happened for him. He's becoming a Melbourne player. He's barracked from all his life.
That's awesome, Mick. Can you just give us an insight? Is he even half the player that Shane Wowoden was in 2000? Because if so, I think it's a pretty good story.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he'll be hoping so, and Dad'll have put in every effort to make sure he's given him a chance. But he's actually very similar, I find, to watching Shane. He's a goal-kicking mid, very, very smart in traffic. He's got that elusive nature about him where he can see the gaps, and he sees them very, very well and early. I really like him as a player. I think he's also very, very smart when he's outside of the contest as well. He's a good decision maker. And most importantly, he goes and wins his own footy. So he doesn't just purely rely on receiving and getting on the outside. He actually goes and wins it at the source. So really nice balance of inside and outside, and another Wowoden to the Melbourne Footy Club. And I'm sure they'll be hoping he'll put himself in Brownlow contention one day.
Has he improved quite late, Mick? Was he in contention even 12 to 18 months ago?
Well, of course the father-sons are always going to attract attention. So you hear about him and the brothers and the like that you always get in footy circles. But, yeah, he's certainly come on later than what other kids have. but he's bided his time. What I like about it, he hasn't been thrust into the spotlight. They've done a fantastic job in just nurturing this young fella and gradually improving his footy to the extent where he is worthy of being on an AFL list.
Thanks, Mick. Great stuff as always. Now St Kilda have passed, meaning all 18 clubs are done for the night, but we'll head to Brad Scott to wrap up the draft.
With all clubs now having passed, the 2021 NAB AFL draft has now concluded. Congratulations to all draftees and good luck at your new clubs.
Thanks to Brad Scott and thanks to all the 18 clubs for their work tonight. Stay with us on Fox Footy. We've got more to come after this. We've got more clubs to talk about and a couple more interviews as well to get to. Looks like the entire Canberra city is in the one town hall, and understandably they're all very, very happy because in the blink of an eye, the dreams have been realised and they are now AFL players. Let's have a look at some of the best feeder clubs in this draft, Shifter and Joey. And, well, unsurprisingly, the Sandy Dragons are at the top, but it's good to see the Dandenong Stingrays as well providing some players for AFL Club Shifter.
Yeah, and a real national look about that as well. We love to be able to say that we have players taken from all states and territories of Australia. It's happened again this year over the 2 nights. So even the one from Canberra, we've had Sandy Brock taken from the NT. That was before the draft kicked off. And every other state's been represented very healthily there as well.
Let's have a look at North Melbourne, Joey, and how they've gone this draft, starting with Jason Horne-Francis.
Yeah, well, we know they've got the best kid in the country and he's going to make an immediate impact. But then they were able to just build around the periphery, weren't they, Shifter, with Goda and Bergman, some of that outside sort of talent and athleticism and run ability that they needed to add, because they're pretty well off in the moment with that inside midfield brigade, as we spoke about, getting Greenwood and obviously Horne-Francis. So they're continuing to build nicely.
And the father-son, Jackson Archer, as well.
Love that. It's been sensational over 2 days. The 2 boys at the top end in Darcy, of course, and Dacos, and then boys at the back end. So 5 father-sons joining their dads at those football clubs.
Stay with you here, Shifter. Tell us about some of these Geelong players that have been picked up in the draft this year.
Well, they went local, didn't they, with 3 of the boys. That's fantastic. And then probably I'd call him the absolute diamond in the rough in Flynn Kroger, the boy that only played a few games mid-year. Looked to be a Vic Metro player earlier, the injured, and only got 4 or 5 games in the middle. Yeah, so a great group, athletic group, plenty of talent there.
All right, the doyen of list management, Stephen Wells. He's with Sarah Ollie at Marvel Stadium.
Well, Stephen, it's been a busy night for you, 5 selections after no selections. Now, you did go for 3 local boys, 3 Falcons. Was that deliberate?
Well, it was deliberate. Obviously, we think the Geelong region is a fantastic footy area, great community. We've got a lot of Falcons on our list already, and those 3 boys that we drafted, though, thoroughly deserved their selections. Toby Conway and Mitch Nevitt with selections in the 20s, had outstanding years for the Falcons and also for the Vic Country team. And Cooper White, when he played, was also an outstanding contributor for the Falcons.
And the 2 other boys, James Willis and Flynn Kroger, they both seem to be in the same build, some hard, tough midfielders. Can you tell us about them?
That's right. Well, Flynn had a bit of an injury-affected year with the Eastern Rangers, but is a strong body, as you say, and a very tough competitor. Met a need for us with our midfield developing group, along with James Willis as well at North Adelaide. A terrific year for him. Big numbers when he played and was able to kick goals out of the midfield as well. So we're very excited to have those 2 boys join those other 3 from the Falcons.
And if you had to give yourself a score out of 10, Stephen, what would it be?
Oh, we just did the best we can. I guess we'll be assessing that down the track. But it was a good to get the draft over and done with and bring some 5 new players into the club. And we're looking forward to the rookie draft tomorrow.
Thank you, so are we.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. Ask for a score out of 10. Stephen Wells has never answered that question. Very good. Let's talk about the West Coast Eagles, Joey, starting with Campbell Chester, who actually came to the London Tavern late last night. I think he was about pick 20, wasn't he? And he turned up and he put on a West Coast jumper that was about 4 sizes too big for him.
Well, he's the only one that's not from WA, and of course he can't head over there until the new year, so he'll be doing some pre-season on his own. But I look there and I see they're replacing the stars that they've had. So Chester might be that replacement across half-back for a Shannon Hearn, or what happens with Brad Shepherd. They've got some sort of key forwards that can replace their stars they've had in there for so long with Josh Kennedy. They've got a half-back, an intercept marker, that Rhett Bazzo there that might be able to replace Jeremy McGovern, you know, as he gets on a bit. And, of course, Greg Clark, one of the stories of the draft night, the 24-year-old that's been playing waffle and now gets his opportunity at AFL level.
All right, let's head over to Mick Ablett, who is in Perth. 2-part question, Mick. Sorry for this at this time of night. How do you rate West Coast and Fremantle's draft hand, and how do you rate the overall talent of the draft that was taken all around the country?
Yeah, I think both West Australian clubs have had a fantastic couple of days. It's really pleasing to see them invest in their own backyard and particularly, like I mentioned, in the country players. So both clubs should be very, very happy with their draft hand, and especially once the Eagles manage to get Chesser over from Victoria after Christmas. I'm sure he'll slot in just nicely. But full credit to the Waffle clubs and the work that they continue to put in, and not just those guys, but obviously the clubs all around Australia that have managed some really difficult circumstances and still managed to give these young men an opportunity to realise their dreams. So I think it's been a great couple of days for WA football. I think the game's in really good hands. And to those that did miss out, there's been plenty of stories, as we mentioned, Greg Clark and the like, that have been able to come back bigger and better. So to all the kids around the country, all the best for the rookie draft tomorrow. You got the pre-season draft, mid-season draft, and plenty more opportunities down the track. So we wish them all the best. And to those who did realise their dreams, boys, the hard work starts now.
Mick, fantastic work tonight. We really appreciate all you do on Fox Footy. Your insight's amazing. Your analysis is spot on, and we look forward to chatting to you soon.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
That's Mick Ablett over there in WA. He knows a lot about a lot of players, Joey and Shifter, and it's great to have him as part of the coverage. All right, up next, we're going to just look at a very famous moment from a couple of years ago and also speak to Melbourne's list manager, Jason Taylor. But coming up soon on Fox Sports is the BBL. It starts on December 5. It's the Sixers versus the Stars, and you can watch all 61 games live on Fox Cricket. Bathurst on next week. The sport continues on Fox Footy, as does the draft tonight. Let's talk about Melbourne Footy Club. Shifter, what do you make of their three selections?
Well, they just need to top up, don't they, Van Rooyen? The best swing man, I think. Maybe the best bargain basement was Blake Howes, and then Woden, a little bit of history there with the Brownlow medalist's son. So I think they've done very well, but they're in a great position, and they've just topped up.
All right, we're about to hear from Jason Taylor, but 2 years ago, Joey, Sarah Ollie was caught in a very awkward position. So take a look at this with Jason Taylor in 2019, just a normal interview, went to shake hands.
Controversial. Oh, that's as good a burn as you'll see.
This has been 2 years in the making. Our girl Sarah Ollie has caught up with Jason Taylor again. Let's see how it played out.
Jason, it's not often that the reigning premiers get probably the biggest slider in the draft, but Blake Howes at 39, could you believe he was still on the board?
Oh, we were really thrilled that he was there, to be honest. We quite like Blake, and we like his versatility, his athleticism, and we thought that he was really building into some really good football when the year come to a cut with COVID, and he started to play some good footy on the wing. We know he's played some good footy forward and some good footy back, but you don't want to speak it up too much, but we really were pleased with that result, to be honest.
And Jacob van Rooyen last night at pick 19. Tell us a bit about him. Is he a bit of a swing man?
Yeah, he is. We like to start Jacob forward. We see him as a key forward for our program, but he has certainly played some significantly good footy as a key defender at national level. So he's got that flexibility, and where it all ends up, we don't know, but he'll start forward with us.
And for the romantics out there, the father-son rule, it's the best in the land. And Taj Woden, apparently he was in tears when you told him if he was still available, you'd take him. So it's a dream come true for him.
Absolutely. It was magnificent, going through that process and letting him and the family know. They were quite emotional, but it was well deserved from Taj. He really works hard on his footy. He's a sensational kid, and he improves every day, and we need to keep bringing people in who want to come in and improve every day.
Now, Jason, it's COVID time, so we can't shake hands, but maybe just from a distance this time.
No worries. Well, I did get you in the car park last night. So
you did. Well played.
Right. Thanks, Sarah.
It's good to see they've made up, isn't it? Jason Taylor and Sarah Ollie. It's a shame they can't shake hands, but that is the COVID times we live in. I think Jason Taylor called Sarah Ollie on the way home that night and apologised, so I think they're okay. It's very, very funny stuff. Anyway, look, for a complete wrap of the draft, make sure you head to foxfooty.com.au tonight, and also tomorrow for the rookie draft, where Ben Waterworth, Max Lawton, Ben Cotton and David Zeta are doing some fantastic work. They're wrapping it all up, and they've got all the details and the analysis you need. And on Saturday night is the WBBL. It's the grand final. So what we saw tonight was the Strikers beat the Renegades. So on Saturday night, it's the Strikers versus the Scorchers. You can catch that from 6:30 p.m. on Fox Cricket, and then the BBL starts after that, as we spoke about before. Shifter and Joey, well done tonight. It's been long, but it's been very fruitful, hasn't it?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of beers flowing for all those who got drafted with all their friends and family, so enjoy the night.